Hi folks, this is Rose from In Rose's Garden, and today we're going to work on a simple little bracelet using a golum bead as a center. If you have never heard of golum beads, they're really special. They're a porcelain bead. I can't remember what country they come from, but they are handmade and they are really pretty. So let's turn down and get to work on that. Okay, to start with, we have our golum bead. We have a button, a connector ring. I'm going to use some soft flex wire in red coral. We have some suede lace. And we have all kinds of beads here. The ones here in this pile are from the orange citrus. And then the reds are from the Strawberry Rhubarb, which are part of my Jesse James Beads Ambassador Kit for October. As well as these, well, and this little tray of extras over here. I have a couple of, I have some vintage coin beads and some little tiny crystal, pale yellow crystal rondelles to bring some of the yellow out. So, as well as that, I also have some little seed beads. These are 11/aughts, and some rubber tubing. And you may ask, why do we need either of those items? And we don't need both. We're going to use one or the other, but we're going to make this a double strand bracelet. And when it goes through the golum bead, as you can see, there is a very large hole. Well, when you put your soft flex through there, it's going to have a lot of excess room floating around, and you really don't want that much room. It's going to, you know, rub on stuff and maybe even allow some of the smaller beads to slip into there, and we don't want that to happen. So we will either put some, I don't think 2 will fit through here though, which is going to stop us from using the seed beads. But that one of the tricks for taking up space is to put seed beads in the hole, like on a large hole bead, or putting some rubber tubing in. And that's probably the route we're going to go, is to put some rubber tubing in. Again, I don't think 2 will go through, but I think we may be able to get 2 strands of the soft flex through the rubber tubing, and that will keep the things from sliding. So let's get started on this. Okay, so we'll also need some crimp tubes. And what we're going to do is take the button, put the soft flex about as much as we think we're going to need, doubled through the button shank, crimp it here, and then we'll use some small beads and then get wider as we go until we get to the golum bead. Then we'll come out the other side with the smaller beads, get bigger again, go back to smaller. Then we'll hook on to the ring. And then with the suede leather, we're going to make a loop on the ring for the button to slip through for a button closure. So let's get our soft flex cut. Of course, the first thing we need to do is decide how much we need. So since we're going to double this up, we'll probably want to get an amount that will go double around your arm. We don't need to take too much extra after that because we are going to be doing it on the ring with the suede lace. So just take your arm and figure a double loop around it. Now I don't have quite enough here. I need a little bit more. So just go around. My arm is about 7 1/4, so I probably could just cut about 15 inches of this, and that may be what is the easiest thing to do. So that's what you want to probably think about doing when you make yours, is to decide on the length of your arm and double that, plus a wee bit. So I think this should be good enough. So we'll cut this off. And after we've cut it off, what we want to do, of course, is string it through the button. Pull it in half. And then just take a crimp, put down over here, and crimp it at the back here. So let's get a crimp out and do that. In the meantime, let's put most of these beads in this dish so I don't knock them all over the place. I don't need 4 yet, but we will just leave them out and put them over here in the dish. Now we don't want this too tight because we want our button to be able to move. So that seems pretty good. We're still moving. Not too horribly tight. So let's crimp. These are magical crimpers. They have a little divot in the middle. So you put the crimp tube, it has to be a tube, not a bead, right in the center and squish. And then you turn it and squish it until it forms a round little circle. And there we go. As you can see, our bead is on there. Now we're going to pick our beads. Now to start with, we want some small beads because we have to start getting them spread like this. So we might want to start with, say, just see if we can get one bead to go through both, which this one does fine, because it's going to be slightly under the edge of the button, and so we don't really want 2 beads sitting there. So 1 is fine. Now we want to get some separate beads on here. And I'm thinking I'm going to start with, I have these little yellow check beads. These are little tiny things, 3 millimeters from Jessie James Beads. And we'll put one on either side to get started with them. This way they stay right up against the other bead, but at the same time they're starting the division of the 2 strands. Come on, baby, stay up there. Okay, like so. And now we're just going to build off of that. I'm going to pull some tiny gold spacers out of my stash to so that we can have some little ones to go onto these things. Let's put these up so I don't lose them. And we'll put one of these on either side. Oops. Dropping beads here. Well, in this case, I'm dropping spacers, but more or less the same thing. So now we're going to start by putting on another small bead to, like I say, start spreading these out some. So let's get some of the red one, a red one. As you can see, this is starting to do its division here. And now we're going to cut these little yellow rondelles loose, and we're going to get one of those for the next one. After you get this started, you're going to have to decide where you feel the middle is going to be, because that's where you're going to want your golem bead at. So here's where we're at so far. Now the next step is going to be deciding if you want where you're going to put this at. So let's, as you probably realize, this is going to be about half of the middle of the back, because we're going to want our loop. Come on, button. Our loop and our ring is going to go back here too. So we're going to come around the top, and we probably want one more bead before we start building the big stuff. So let's go with, I think, this red. Now to this point, I have made both sides be identical, though I could have done them in opposites, but right now they're just identicals. So what we're going to do starting pretty soon here is we want to start widening this with some larger beads. So we'll take one of these pretty crystal coins, slide it on here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bead stopper on the other side. I'm just going to work on this side for a while and see how she goes. Now I want big orange. We're going to start slimming her down again, because we're going to have to tip over to go into the golem bead. And these two, you'll want to not be smacking into each other. So we need to decide if, like I say, where we want this middle section to be at. So far we have this. And now would be the golem bead. So we'll slide it on. It's not going to be on just like this when we go, but we want to see if it's close to the middle. So round we go. And yeah, I think it will be. So we're going to take the golem back off, and we're going to do the other side. Oops, that bead slid in, and that's what we don't want to happen. Come on, baby, out you come. And this is why you want the tubing inside, because now we have a bead stuck in the golem. So let's get our awl out and just see if we can't carefully push that bead back out. There we go. Put this aside again for a minute and find where our little bead went and put it back on. Now at this point you could put some other, you might want to put another small bead or something on, but right now what I'm going to do is put a bead stopper on, because I don't think we're going to, and then we're going to go to the other side, and instead of putting this crystal on, we're going to go opposite, and we're going to put the big orange bead on next. And then the coin crystal. And now we're going to want, I'm going to put this spacer in here. Red bead and the little gold bead. Now the question is it going to pull together again good without crunching into each other too much? And I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit too close. I think we want something else to pull that a little further apart. So I think we're going to get another one of these little yellow ones in here and hope that we don't end up making it too large. But so let's pull the little ones off. Put these on. A little spacer. The little tiny yellow ones. Now let's see where we're at. Okay, so I think that, see, that's a little bit looser there, and I think that'll work a lot better, just as long as we don't end up making it too big. Hopefully it'll be about perfect. So the next thing we got to do is put our bead stopper back on, and then we'll cut a little bit of the nylon tubing to put inside the golem bead. So let's get the tubing out. And then what you need to do is you just need to push it through the hole and cut about the length you need for it to be inside the hole, which is about here. So let's cut that right there. What I do with my cutters. I usually always put them away, but it looks like I didn't this time. Oh, there they are. So cut that. We'll put this back away. Don't want to get it lost. I use it too much. Okay, so now what we want to do is take both of these and thread them through the rubber tubing. Just like so. Now then we put these with the rubber tubing right through the golem bead. And it sits right there like that. Now we just start working the other side of our bead strand. So we'll start it just like we left the other side, with 2 of the little golds. I'm just going to do 1 strand at a time here. Yellow. Red. Now, depending on which side you're working on, I think I'm going to do it opposite on this side as I did on that side. So we're going to put this on. I don't have any more of this particular type of red, so we're going to use a little red crackle bead instead. Still red, so it will work all right, and besides, it's going to be wrapping around to the back of your wrist at this point in time. Now at this point, I'm going to put a bead stopper on here and we'll start the other side. Now let's see where she's sitting on our arm. This way. Round. And oh, we still have plenty of room. Maybe even need some more. So next step is to see if we do need some more. If we do need some more, we are going to put the ring on. Then the leather will go on after that. So we'll put these two little here. Bring them together with this red bead. Put that on here. Let's see here how we're doing. Oh, we had another red bead in here. That is what the difference is. Okay, I need to grab a couple more red beads, and I do have a couple right back here. This red is a slightly different color than that one, but not enough to make it be a problem, especially since this will be towards the back. So let's take the little ones off. Oop, don't want to lose it. Put these red on, and then the little one back on. Put the bead stopper on. And the little yellow. And then we will put the red crackle bead back on. Come on, baby. Pull them up. And tighten. So, as you can see, we're now, other than these, which are opposite, everything is pretty much the same on both sides. So let's try this on our arm again. And now when we put the ring on, it'll come to about here, and then we have this. So this is exactly about where we want it. So our next step is to hook on the ring. Now that wanted to flip there. I don't want it flipped. There. So what we want to do is we want to crimp this right here at the end. Make sure that we have these pretty even right here. Come on, babies. Now go down right. Okay. Same for this side. Okay. And now we'll crimp this onto right here with our magical crimper. Okay, now turn, do it again, and again, and again. Now let's do the tug test. Okay, we're good. And we have a choice now of what we want to do. Now, since this ring has multiple little holes in it, I could put each of one of these through its own spot, like so, or I could put them both through. But if you put them both through, one of the crimp tubes will only take 3 wires, so one of these would have to be cut off so that you could crimp it down into one. So this is your choice. I am probably going to cut one off and put it in just one crimp, just to make sure that it gets up there a little snugly. Though it certainly could be done with 2. Let's see what I decide to do here. Now, of course, if you're using a ring that's just a simple ring, you don't have this option of having more than one hole. So you would just do one crimp. And I think it would be easiest just to do one as well. So since this is past the tug test, we cut off one of these wires. Now I'm going to cut off the shorter one because it's much easier to crimp with a longer wire than with a shorter one. So just get up close to the crimp and just trim that one wire off. Put a new crimp tube on this one wire. Go through one of your holes, or like I say, if it's a regular ring, just go through your ring, come back up, and go through here. Now, if you wanted to, you could put a little bead between the two crimps. I have done that a number of times. It really looks cute when you do that. But I'm not sure we have the room to do that. We want to take up that much. I don't know that we need the space, so we might want to check that. Let's see how it's going. We could use the space. So let's put in one of these, I think we have plenty of red beads here. So let's put a yellow, one of these little yellow rondelles in here. So on that with that, then back on with the crimp tube again, through a hole or through the link ring, then through your crimp bead again. And if it will go through your bead, if the wire will, go ahead and push it through the bead. Are you going through the bead? I can't tell. Yep, there it comes. And this will help with making sure your crimp is in a good spot and you don't have any problems with your tail at all. So push your tail down, bring it down to it, give yourself a little space, crimps out, and let's crimp that crimp tube. Tug test. It's doing great. Let's cut this extra little string off. And there we are so far. The last step is to put our suede lace on for our closure. And it's going to fit just like this. Go around. And then the suede lace will be knotted right here in the back. And that's what it will look like. So let's get some suede lace cut and we will get that on. I think I'm going to clean these up. And I am going to put these little ones in this dish so I don't have them all over the place. So there we go. So when you cut your suede lace, you want at least 6 inches, probably a little more, because what we're going to do is we're going to put a lark's head knot over the ring, and then we're going to tie an overhand knot for the button to go through, and that's going to take up some space. So let's cut about so much, and that is, let's see, more than I thought, about 10 inches. You could go even a little bit more. It's better to cut off the extra than not have enough. And I think I will. I think we'll go about 12 inches. So there we go. So we'll cut that off. Side. Now, what we're going to do is simply to put a lark's head knot here. I always do these backwards. Yep, that's backwards. So, still going to be backwards. Through here, and pull. There we go. So there's that to our pretty stuff here. And now we need to decide how big of a knot we need to make for our button to go through. So we want it probably about right here. So let's get our, and just tie a knot right here. Simple little overhand knot. Keep it straight as you come up. It's probably even going to be bigger than I need. But I think that might work just fine there. So we want to tighten our knot up. Check to make sure our button will go through all right. We actually have more space than we need. It could be a little bit smaller. Now if you had a bead that would match the things you're working with that had a large hole in it, you could slide it here and then use it as a slider to bring the knot tighter if you wanted to. Want to get this up just a hair's breadth, so I'm going to work it up here. I'm getting it a little twisted, which I don't want to do. So let's see if I can fix that. Once you get this tied, it doesn't want to really come out if you've tightened it up, but I'm going to work it a little bit until I do, because I do want it just a touch tighter, and I want to try and keep this knot as straight as possible. So there we go. So now just bring this knot all the way across to bring her up some more. Tighten, tighten, tighten. And try our button again. Okay, we don't want it much looser than that because we do want it to get able to get over the button easily. So there we are, we're done. Unless you have plenty of leather like we have here. See, I could have left it at the 10 inches. Well, yeah, I could have. But it's better to have a little extra, as I say, than not enough. And at this point, if you wanted to, since there's extra leather there, again, if you had some large hole beads that would fit on the end of the leather fine, you could tie a bead on here for some decoration, which is always rather pretty. But what I'm going to do is just take my clippers and cut these evenly about right here at an angle. And we are done with our bracelet. Isn't that pretty? So let's see how big it ended up being. If I made it too big or if I made it just right. So we can bring this around and slide our button through the leather. Easier said than done. As most people know, it's not so easy to put a bracelet on by yourself. Let's get the loop open some. The button slide through there. And there she goes. Isn't that a pretty bracelet? And of course, if you don't want to make a button closure, you could have put this end on a lobster claw and then just used a lobster claw here. And even if you wanted to still leave the ring, you could have put a jump ring on here for the lobster claw to grab. And if you had a big enough lobster claw, it would go over this anyway. So there's a number of different ways you could have closed this. I just like this particular kind of closure because sometimes it's easier to get this one closed on your own. So anyway, there's our bracelet. I think it turned out right pretty. And let's turn around and I'll show you a little better. There's our bracelet tutorial. Here it is again on my arm. We can take that off in a second, but that's what she looks like. Easily take it off. Again, there she is, not on. The pretty Sunrise Golum bead there in the middle, and the beads from Citrus Orange, and the red ones from Strawberry Rhubarb, the Jesse James bead, Strand and Mix. And that is our tutorial for today. This is Rose from In Rose's Garden, and I hope you enjoyed this. Bye-bye.